Okay, best breakfast that you can have before a big run, and especially before a long run or an interval session, the key sessions in the week, or before a race. But as I've said many times, when it's an easy recovery run and those make up 78-80% of your run, for me, my routine, and this is what I do, and this is what I think is best practice, is I will set my kit up the night before. There's no kind of, it just eliminates any kind of time wasted in the morning. I wake up, I hydrate with water, I have a quick coffee, and then I'm out the door. Within 15 minutes, I'm out the door. And that means that I'm sleeping for 8-9 hours. For 2 hours before going to sleep, I'm not having anything. So 10-11 hours, it's fasted running. And then what that's doing is teaching my body to tap into my fat reserves as fuel rather than glycogen, rather than sugar, rather than what I've just had for breakfast. So that's fasted running on an empty stomach, and that has helped me so much over the years, and really helps me to get to that next level in terms of when I do put food in, when I do have a breakfast on race day or for big sessions, I have so much more energy, and it's so crucial for me. You notice it, like, you're having a shot of espresso. It's kind of that extra sort of energy is really good, not only for the session and energy, and not only for the race, but also great for recovery. If you're putting food in when you don't usually, the muscle breakdown is not as damaging. It's not as damaging that run, and that means you can recover fast together with nutrition during the run, and that's really important. When I upped my carbohydrate intake from just under 40 grams to 80 grams to 90 grams, the recovery was so much faster, which means you can do harder sessions and more frequent harder sessions, which means you can improve faster over a shorter time. But top 3 breakfasts. Number 1, and we're talking, you have to practice with this, and you're basically working back from your race. So if you're kind of training for a half marathon or marathon at the moment, or an ultra marathon, that's when it gets important what you're eating before, like really important. If you're doing a 1500 meters or a 5k, it's not as important, but you want your stomach to be settled. But that's a key point. You want to play with this in your training, so you want to know, for you, because this is individual, it's unique to you, how much do you need to eat, portion size, what do you need to eat, and how long before you're going to train, or you're going to warm up is the important part. Because some people warm up for 15 minutes and forget that time is then their stomach moving around, and it's not like cycling where your stomach is very still. You're moving around a lot. Your stomach's moving around up and down and moving around, and if it's going to get upset, it's going to do it during running. Cross-country skiing, stomach stays very, very, very still. Cycling, very, very still. Swimming, you can often get away with it, but not as much. Running, you have to get it right, yeah? So it's really important. So number 1 is, if you're training towards a race, and if you know that race is, for instance, 9 o'clock in the morning, like most races, yeah? Then for me, it was a case of, I need to wake up 3 hours before that, because I need to eat within 2 hours 30 of start warming up. So within 15 minutes, I've got to start eating if I'm going to have something like porridge. So if you have 100 grams of dry weight porridge, which is quite a substantial amount, then you need to probably leave that between 2 and 3 hours to fully metabolize, to digest, so it's not sloshing around in your stomach. So that's the number 1 breakfast. And if I'm doing a race later on in the day, and if it's sort of 9 o'clock, you have to wake up late. If it's later on in the day, I had a 3 o'clock start recently in an Italian race. I've had night races, and then you just need to time it right, so that's kind of, you're kind of snacking and you're having small portions, and then you're putting the right amount in your body. Now, if you want to wake up a little bit later, or if you want to be lighter, then try having 50 grams of porridge first. And what I'd suggest is you have it with water. You make it with water, so you've not got the extra calories of the almond milk or the plant milk or whatever you're making with, or the dairy is a big problem, so stay away from dairy before you run. And then nuts and seeds are going to take a little bit longer to digest as well, to metabolize. So take them off as well. So take that kind of everything you make a great recovery breakfast with is not in this. Peanut butter, almond butter, you take that away and you just literally have, you can put sugar, you can put honey, no problem at all, but play with that portion size and get used to it before you're going to take that to race. And do the same with the interval session and the same with the long run. Now, it depends on your schedule. If you're doing all your runs in the morning, and that would mean getting up ridiculously early, what I found really works for me is having a fruit breakfast. So if I've got something in the morning, if I've got a 9 o'clock race, or sometimes ultras are starting at 7 o'clock in the morning, sometimes in Asia as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, I prefer the sleep. I prefer the sleep and waking up later so that I'm not having to wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning for a 5 o'clock race. I'm not having to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning for a 7 o'clock in the morning race. I prefer the extra rest and recovery and just to be prepared to run. So I, maybe 7 years ago, started to have 5 bananas, and depending on the length of the race, yeah, but 5 bananas blended in water, and I have that as a smoothie, and it settles my stomach. It's 100 calories and 25 grams of carbohydrate per banana, so you can do the maths on that on 5 bananas. 3 bananas is sufficient, by the way. Blended in water, so you've not got the milk, you've not got the extra digestion time in that. That's probably going to be metabolized in 15 minutes, but give it at least 30, and I give it an hour. So I give it an hour before the race, and then within sort of 45, 50 minutes, I'm warming up. And if it's a marathon or an ultra, I'm not doing too much of a warm up. I'm just basically activating muscles. So that's sufficient for me to do really well. And then the number 3 breakfast, if it's something simple, it's light, and those two are far superior to number 3, but the number 3, I would suggest, stick with what you go with at the moment, but maybe add, like a typical one for most people is bread. So people like to have either white or whole wheat bread, and that will have like a seti, like olive oil on, or tomato, or something really easy. Stay away from dairy, stay away from cheese, stay away from milk. Even your coffee, just try to have a tiny bit of milk in, or no milk at all, and then you're good to go. But it's like your nutrition in your race, like what you're going to do in the race in terms of pacing. Your breakfast will only work for you on race day if you've practiced with it. So if you've not practiced with it, like interval session, it's important to practice because you're going to be going fast, you're going to be going at race pace and faster, so your stomach can get used to dealing with that breakfast, to dealing with that fuel, basically, yeah. And then the long run, you're getting used to it over a time, a gradually longer time towards the race time, and then you know how to tweak that breakfast, and you can play with that. It's like an experiment over the schedule, and then you'll find what works for you. You'll find what works for you with the breakfast for fueling. You'll find what works with your nutrition during the race, which is another video altogether. And then you'll find what works for you. So, and once you hit that, and once you find out that you're not draining energy within the race, or you feel totally energized during the race, and your recovery is quick because the muscle breakdown isn't as much, because you've put something in. And that might surprise a lot of people in terms of recovery, because recovery usually you think afterwards. But if your recovery starts with, first of all, your training, what you're used to, getting the body ready for a big task, but also what you fuel your body with before and during the race. That starts your recovery, and that's the main way you're going to recover. If you go into something with absolutely nothing and nothing during the race, and then afterwards you've got total muscle breakdown, you're gonna be completely on the back foot, and that's not the right way to recover. The right way to recover is before you've even started and way before the race. So yeah, those are my top 3 breakfasts. And my favorite is 5 bananas blended in water. I can get up late, I can have that an hour before the race. You can have that even 30 minutes before. I've had it for 30 minutes before, and it's no problem at all. Like I said, fruit metabolizes the fastest, and when it's blended in water, obviously the surface area, rather than eating a banana and putting that into your stomach, the surface area increases and therefore you metabolize it faster, get that energy into the bloodstream, and you get the bonus of potassium, which helps with muscle function and helps prevent cramps. So you're good there, and there's 3 good options.